So, Councilmember Chairman.
I'd like to piggyback off of what Councilwoman Kopis had to say about public safety. I agree with her. I think that this council is not looking at options. What we have here, presented by the city manager, is one way of looking at this. It's a very narrow view. I think that if you look at the figures that were given, and it was interesting seeing how the city manager was comparing the January 20th figures to the adopted budget and not the actuals from 2007 and 8. I think if you look at those figures, you see that we reduced, this is on page 5, by the way, of your packet. If you look, we reduced expenses by $900,000, yet salaries and benefits rose by $800,000, so it was practically a wash. Revenue is off $2.17 million from what we had last year. You have to understand where the costs are. Salaries and benefits have risen by $800,000. We are not addressing salaries and benefits. We're simply addressing a furlough to reduce the salary expenditures, but there's a cost to that, and that's where I get back to what Ms. Kopis had to say. And that is that furloughs take away from your service to the community. And that is exactly what we're trying to provide here. I agree with you. I don't think we should be cutting anybody. I think that what we need to be looking at is a way to keep people on their job, not cut any jobs, but attack the real problem here, which is salaries and benefits. Now, there are a number of ways to go after salaries and benefits. Benefits can be renegotiated. Benefits can be paid, a portion of it can be paid through contributions of the workers. All this has to be negotiated. Nothing is off the table, as the mayor has said any number of times. Getting to street sweeping. Yeah, we had street sweeping as part of the fees that were paid for garbage at the time. And when they raised their rates, because the franchise fee, which was also pointed out, went up, we decided that we would take part of that franchise fee, the former city manager did, and use that 1% that is essentially a tax on the community to fund street sweeping, to reduce the size of that impact to the citizens. Now, once again, we're going back and we're going to ding the citizens for it, evidently. At least that's what the suggestion was. That's an increase in taxes as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, $100,000 when you're $2 million in the hole, I don't know whether that's all that intelligent to do that. I'm looking at the figures here, and what it would take to balance this budget is a 15% salary reduction, which equates to 3 days, according to what we're looking at, or what has been suggested with the furlough. The one furlough of 4.6 is going to save about, I think it was $500,000 or something like that. And on top of that, with the other service cuts, you have your $2 million. Now, there are also other things that we can consider. We have $2.9 million in reserves. If we can cut this deficit, not the whole $2 million deficit, but if we can cut it down, say 3/4 of it, we have enough in revenue, or not in revenues, but excuse me, in reserves, to keep us afloat for 4 or 5 years. And hopefully by that time things will change. These are all things that haven't been looked at. I haven't seen any suggestions about any of this. And frankly, I think it's way too early to say we've looked at all the options. I agree with Mr. Riley. I think that there are further things that need to be done. I'd really like to see either another workshop or a direct negotiation instead of having this back and forth thing with intermediaries. I'd like to deal directly with the unions in front of the public and come to some conclusion. It's obvious to me that all of you people out here that are working for the city want to help the city out in a positive way. I don't see why we should hide any of this from the public. I think it would be a step in the right direction towards transparency. I think that we can, if there are some problems, we can work them out just as we stand at here. So I'm not ready to move ahead on anything. I think I've more or less given my position on the impacts. And then there was one other quote that I wrote down: furlough programs save jobs. Well, if the furlough saves jobs, so will a salary cut. If you have a 10% salary cut, you can keep all of these jobs and continue to keep the people employed and provide service to the citizens. The developers in this town have been complaining that we don't process things quickly enough. We have an opportunity to open up the northeast quadrant with the Flying J, as long as we make sure that it's a good project. We have 2 developments that are waiting for water, along with Flying J. All of those things will add to our revenues. Frankly, I still say we overextended ourselves. We continue to give these raises. We compare ourselves to Vallejo, Vacaville, and Fairfield, when we should be comparing ourselves to smaller towns. Past councils, through negotiations, have put us in this position, and somebody's going to have to stand up and say enough is enough. Thank you, Jack.
Mayor, if I could just make a couple clarifications. There's sort of a legal issue. The city council can't directly negotiate with any labor unions. Your negotiators, myself or Michael Dean in some cases. We have a contract. The city council has a contract that you sign. It's called the Memorandum of Understanding with different labor units, but you can't directly, as a body, negotiate directly with unions. That's through your negotiator, and that's through myself. So I want to clarify that. That is why one of the things that you can do in closed session, one of the legal things you can do in closed session, is to discuss negotiations. And I relay what goes on during those meetings, and I'm your person that, or in this case, now that I'm your city manager, your previous city manager probably did the same thing. They relayed the information that was at the table, but there's all kinds of case law on this issue. So bottom line is,
I understand.
So,
well, the thing is, what that points out is maybe we need to readdress the MOUs to make this a more direct relationship.
But this is actually Miles Miller, I forget all the MMBA. There's all kinds of case law on this. We follow that. Basically, there's state codes that we follow regarding the labor process. If we didn't follow the labor process, then we would be subject to what's called the Personnel Employer Relations Board at the state of California. So it's important that we stay, on the right arrow, so to speak. We need to stay focused on what the processes that we can do with negotiations. So I just want to point that out to the council. That is very important, and that's a relationship that we want to maintain with our labor units. Okay?